So we're gonna discuss about Pisa Cathedral, which located on the central Italy. So this was the photo of the Pisa Cathedral, and also known as Cattedrale di Pisa, or Cattedrale di Pisa. There was two architects, and that is Buscetto and Reynaldo. They founded in 1064 and consecrated with great pomp on September 26, 1118. So here's a question. Why the Pisa Cathedral famous? Because it is the one of the most impressive churches in Tuscany, Italy, and a masterpiece of a Pisan Romanesque architecture. And also, it became famous because of its bell tower, and that is called the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So here are the characteristics of Pisa Cathedral. Massive bronze main door. So here's the picture of massive bronze main door. That was the original photo. We all know that all churches have different kind of large main door on the front area. Second is it was made from white marble. This was the white marble, and because they said old era has limited kind of material, and at that time marble was the main material. Wooden roof like Christian basilicas before, and that is their main material that Christian basilicas use, the wood ones. Next is the mosaic of the interior show a strong Byzantine influence, and it is a good to show that having an experience of Byzantine, because the design is aesthetic looking, made from hard looking rocks, and detailed design of the cathedral. Next is the interior of face with black and white ceiling and the frescoed dome. It was largely decorated after a fire in 1595. So they have a fire on 1595, which being destroyed most of the medieval artworks in the Pisa Cathedral, and also having a dark marks which is coming from the fire, and it used to become the decoration nowadays. And lastly, above the doors, there are 4 rows of open galleries with on top statues of Madonna. Here's the picture. So that's the picture of Madonna, or the glass. I know that was the glass on the top of the door, large door in the front area. So this was the Pisa Cathedral features. The cathedral is about 100 meters long and 55 meters high. The first stone of Pisa Cathedral was laid on 1093, initiating what would become the distinctive Pisan Romanesque style. So this was the transept. Is actually a second basilica with apse intersecting the nave at the crossing. And as you can see on the picture, the one that is highlighted with color, that is called the transept. The vertical or the horizontal ones that you can see on the arrow. And lastly, the Pisa Cathedral, Italy. This was the Pisa Cathedral plan, the floor plan of the main cathedral. So next, we're gonna move on. Zeno Maggiore Verona. It plays on the or it's located on the North Italy. Zeno Maggiore Verona. This was the picture of the main cathedral or the main church. The Basilica di San Zeno is a minor basilica of Verona, northern Italy, constructed between 967 and 1398 AD. And for me, it was the one of the oldest church that I known, because I never heard of 967 in my life, or I just never listened to my teacher. But for me, it was the one of the oldest church that I know. Next is the Church of San Zeno constituted the role model for all subsequent Romanesque edifices in Verona. So this was the picture of the main clock tower, the bell tower rather. The bell tower stands as a separate building. So as you can see on the first picture right here is the Basilica di San Zeno, and at the back of the church there was the bell tower stand, and as it said, it was separate from the building. And it is 62 meters high and was begun in 1045 and completed in 1178. So it was a long journey for this kind of tower. It was not fast to build enough. So there are the three levels of the interior of the church. First one is the crypt. Since 921, the crypt has housed the body of Saint Zeno in a sarcophagus, his face covered by a silver mask. So here's the picture about it. I do not know such that great knowledge about the crypt, but here's the picture of the crypt, so you know about this. Next is the central church. The central church, known as Chiesa Plebana, is of the Latin cross layout with the nave, two-aisle and transept. So that was the central church, or the interior of the church inside, and having the aisle on the two sides, that also a transept. And lastly, the presbytery. The presbytery is raised on an arcade above the crypt, which thus remains visible from the nave. And this was it, the last part, or the last level of the interiors of the church. As you can see, having the statues, the 5 statues right there. And lastly, the visitors. The visitors to the city of Verona should not forget to plan a stop at the beautiful Romanesque church dedicated to the patron of 8th bishop of the city of Saint Zeno. Every people that go to that church of the Basilica of Saint Zeno are always going to the beautiful Romanesque little statue of 8th bishop of the Saint City, and that is Saint Zeno. So now let's move on the Cefalu Cathedral, Sicily, or located on South Italy and Sicily. So this was the picture of Cefalu Cathedral, Sicily. The Cefalu Cathedral was built to fulfill the king's promise to demonstrate the power of the Normans in Sicily and to defend the town in case of an invasion. So this was their main protection, the church, the main church. So it was their protection back days in case of having an invasion on their city or on their province. The cathedral was erected between 1131 and 1240. So this was the characteristic of the Cefalu Cathedral, Sicily. Most part of the cathedral have a wooden roof made out of the timber and wooden beams that were left uncovered. So this was it. It was the feature. As you can see on the picture, it was literally a wood made of roof plan, and they left it uncovered and not protected by the new and good ceiling. And next is the Cefalu Cathedral was built using traditional materials and techniques from Arab architecture. So they have got the techniques of the Arabs using also their traditional materials. The church has a Latin cross plan layout with the crescent point of cross being longer. So that was the floor plan of the church. So you can see these two towers right here is this one.
The Basilica of Notre Dame de Port is a Romanesque basilica formerly a collegiate church in the port quarter of Clermont-Ferrand between the Place de Lille and the cathedral from the 10th century through the French Revolution. It was served by a community of canons, regular until the 13th century, and therefore secular. According to Bishop of Clermont Saint Avitus, in the 6th century and was rebuilt in the 11th or 12th centuries after being burned down by the Normans. The establishment here of a community of canons took place no earlier than the middle of 10th century under Bishop Etienne II of Clermont. The church was formally declared a basilica minor on 3rd May 1886. In the 9th century, the bell tower was added, and the Romanesque roof tiles were replaced by lava slabs. These have since been removed again and the roof restored as near as possible to its original state. A major restoration program took place in the church interior between 2007 and 2008, consisting of the cleaning of all stonework, the removal of cement pointing from the restoration of the 9th century, the restoration of the pictures, and the replacement of the lustres. The crypt, however, was not included. The basilica is one of the five Romanesque churches in Auvergne, known as the Greater Churches, the others being the Church of Saint Ugsimar in Issoire, the Basilica of Notre Dame of Orcival, the Church of Saint Nectaire, and the Church of Saint Saturnin. Of a cross, a sort of sandstone, the building has an almost perfect harmony, supposedly resulting from the application of the ratio of the golden number. The church is built on a Latin cross, ground plan with a nave of six bays between two low side aisles, with simple vaults. There is a transept with a semicircular chapel on each arm, and a choir surrounded by an ambulatory, from which open four radiating chapels, one of them on the main axis, thus forming a chevet, which with its fine mosaics is a notable example of the Romanesque art of Auvergne. The capitals, which are among the finest in Auvergne, principally depict scenes from the Bible, but also some from the Psychomachia of Prudentius. Next is the Basilica of the Holy Apostles from Germany. The Cologne Cathedral, or Roman Catholic Cathedral Church located in the city of Cologne, Germany, is the largest Gothic church in Northern Europe and features immense twin towers that stand 515 feet or 157 meters tall. The cathedral was designated a UNESCO World Heritage since 1996. The site of the Cologne Cathedral has been occupied by Christian churches since about the 4th century. An older cathedral was destroyed by fire in 1248, and immediately thereafter work began on the present cathedral, which was designed in the Gothic style in emulation of the French church architecture. The choir was concentrated in 1322, but the construction continued until 1560, or only until 1520. According to some authorities, the project then stalled for centuries with the large wooden crane left standing some 184 feet, or 56 meters, above the ground, at the top of the south tower. During the 1790s, the troops of the French Revolution occupied Cologne and used the cathedral as a stable and hay barn. Restoration work began in the 1820s, spurred on by Sulpice Vogler, a German prominent of the Gothic Revival movement. In 1842, a new cornerstone was laid by King Frederick William IV of Prussia, and work to complete the cathedral resumed in the earnest with the architects Ernest Friedrich Zwerner and Richard Voitel carried out the enterprise, guided by the architectural drawings made in 1300s. The construction finally ended in 1880. At the time of its completion, Cologne Cathedral was believed to be the world's tallest structure, a distinction it held until 1884. When the Washington Monument was finished, it continued to be the world's tallest building until it was exceeded by Ulm in Germany Cathedral in 1890. Cologne Cathedral was badly damaged by Allied air raids in 1944, but the medieval windows had been removed beforehand. By 1948, the choir had been restored and was again in regular use, as was the rest of the interior by 1956. In the late 20th century, work began to repair the effects of acid rain on the stonework.
Good day for the Spain and Portugal architecture. One of the most beautiful cathedral that has been created in Spain was called Santiago de Compostela. The Santiago de Compostela is a Romanesque and Gothic and Baroque architecture that was designed in 1075 to 1211 that are located in Plaza de Obradoiro, Santiago de Compostela, Arconeona. It is the capital of the autonomous community of Gracia in northern Spain. The leader who decided to build this Compostela is their bishop, Diego Peláez, on an old church dedicated to Saint Santiago or Saint James as he is known in English. In fact, in 1985, the city of Old Town was dedicated and designed from this cathedral to a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The construction of the Santiago de Compostela Cathedral began in 1075 during the reign of Alfonso VI. The city has its origin in the shrine of Saint James the Great. Now the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela has the destination of the Way of Saint James, a leading Catholic religion pilgrimage route since the 9th century. The Santiago de Compostela has a very mild climate for its latitude, with heavy winter rainfall courtesy of its relative proximity to the design to prevailing winds from Atlantic low pressure system. The Santiago is the site of the University of Santiago de Compostela was established in the early 16th century. The main campus can be seen best from the alcove in the large municipal park in the city of center. Their architecture, or one of their architecture, is Bernard the Elder. He is one of the 4 architecture that has been created and decided to design this cathedral architecture. He is one of the Spanish architecture. Some of them was called Maestro Esteban, Bernard the Younger, and Roberto Scalperianos. They are the old Spanish architecture that decided to create this Santiago de Compostela. In fact, again, they believe that they built this to hold the remains of Saint James, the Apostle of Christ. The Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela is one of the major pilgrimage sites in their area in Spain. And this is their design, interior design. This was one of the commonly used for Roman Catholic religion design. For its sketch drawing and floor plan section, these are their example. It was designed for like connected to the sign of the cross. for the Holy Land of Architecture. The Church of St. Anne from the Jerusalem is unknown for the Romanesque architecture that built between 1131 and 1138 that are founded in the city of Jerusalem. But in this year, the purpose was to replace a previous Byzantine church enlarged by several meters shortly after. The church is an excellent example of the Romanesque architecture. The Church of St. Anne is a French Romantic Catholic church and first national domain located before the start of the Via Dolorosa between the Lion's Gate and the second station of the Cross, which is the churches of the flagellation and condemnation. In 1856, in advantage of French war support during the Camarinian War, the reigning in their area, the Sultan in their area are presented to the Napoleon III, or known for the first president of the France. It was subsequently restored by the French government in 1862 was dispatched that was the architecture named Christophe Eduardo Maos that born in 1829 to 1914. It was no specific story or picture has been revealed. His purpose to Jerusalem is, however, to rebuild the Church of the Saint Anne Jerusalem. However, the majority of what remains today is original. In fact, in 1862, the French architect Christophe Maus dispatched his governor to Jerusalem with the special assignment of restoring the true time-damaged church. The actual Church of St. Anne was built between 1131 and 1038 during the reign of the Queen Melisende or Queen Melisende. These are the example of their section and sketch drawing and floor plan. For its interior design, a small interior design that was connected also for the Roman Catholic. British Isles architecture. One of the British Isles architecture that was being created is called Peterborough Cathedral. The Peterborough Cathedral is known for many designs that connected the architecture. These are the Norman, English, Gothic, and Romanesque architecture. This was constructed between 1177 to 1194. The Peterborough Cathedral, also known as the Peter Saint Cathedral. The Peterborough Cathedral is known for its impressive and majestic early English Gothic west front, which with these three enormous or huge arches design is without an architectural pattern and with no direct successor. The appearance is slightly asymmetrical as one of the two towers that has been raised from behind. The facade was never completed because the tower on the right as one of the faces the building, but this is only visible from a distance. It was like a mirror design. In fact, the Peterborough Cathedral is one of the England's finest buildings that had been created to demolish immediately after the war so that they could sell its material to raise and rebuild again the cathedral. During the war has been damage to its church. The construction of the cathedral was going on for the decades until it was consecrated and blessed in 1238. The mark instead remained laid out by around 1145. The Peterborough was granted and allowed to have an annual fair in 189 due to unfixed moments and history of its church. As the part of the church, the Norman gate between the marketplace and the Adibi Precinct was assembled between 1177 and 1194. One of these British architecture that has been built or designed this cathedral was called John Borog Pearson. For its floor plan section and sketch drawing, it was also similar for the first one was called Santiago de Compostela, that has been design conceptualization or for the floor plan was site of the cross, what that was usually used for the Roman Catholic religion. For interior design, this is one of the best interior design you will be seen today in our era, which has with a unique design and pattern in their high ceiling. Not but in high ceiling, but also in their walls. Thank you very much.